Thank you so much, everybody who has been with us for now almost 2 hours. And also thank you so much for everybody that is joining for this session, which we're very excited to have a handful of our customers here. So today's session is a roundtable discussion, real life examples of engaging and retaining employees. Emily is going to be moderating the conversation, but I just want to give quick introductions for everybody here in the panel. Starting with Emily, for those ones who missed the initial session. So Emily, she's our vice president. She has over 15 years of experience working in the manufacturing, agriculture, and construction industries, specifically with client relationships. And here at Satisfied, she has created a customer-first environment, working closely with both enterprise and dealer groups. Then we have Ann Palm. She's the VP of HR for 21st Century, and they are a 16-location John Deere dealer in Nebraska, Colorado, and Wyoming, with over 400 employees. And Ann just joined recently this past year. It's her family business, and she just bringing all her wealth of HR experience to 21st Century. Then we have Tracy Ellick. She is the HR manager at Premier Equipment, and they are an 8-location John Deere dealer in Ontario, Canada, with 400 employees. So Tracy has been with Premier for 10 years, overseeing all aspects of human resources, and also she's a member of the leadership team. Then we have Rob Durham, and he is the VP of Marketing and HR at Lakeside International Trucks. So they are an international truck dealership with 8 locations, over 300 employees in Wisconsin and Illinois. And Rob has over 20 years of experience and brings a unique perspective with his shared role of HR and marketing. Then we have Shannon Schiltz. She's the director of HR at Redline Equipment. And they are a Case dealership in Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, with 12 locations. And Shannon joined in Redline in 2014, and she's responsible for helping 200 employees. And last but not least, we have Todd Backman. He is the president and CEO at Florida Coast Equipment. They are now the largest Kubota dealership in the United States, with 13 locations and 220 employees. And Todd is going to bring us today that leadership perspective with a background in politics and a passion for people. So you are in for a treat with this amazing group of people. So thank you so much for everyone for being here. And Emily, take it out.
Thanks, Alina. I appreciate those introductions. Excellent job to get us kicked off with this session. I'm super excited for today. I think that we have a fantastic panel with us. I think the last couple of years have posed some really interesting challenges as it faces all of us in any industry, really, to be honest. You know, with some of the labor shortages that we've had, all of these industries we have represented here today have been dealing with challenges long before that, though, especially as it relates to service technicians, and that has continued. So for today's purposes, we wanted to talk about a couple key areas. One around how are we attracting talent, get some feedback on some real examples, things that have worked, haven't worked at the dealerships, that you can take away again as some lessons, maybe practices to put in place or idea to take back to your organizations. We'll also talk about retention, right? So if you're investing all this effort in attracting, recruiting, bringing in new people, onboarding, training them, we know that gets expensive. So how do we also retain those people so that we get the most out of the investment that they're making as well as you are making in them? And then we'll talk about some lessons learned, right? Some takeaways that they've had and their experiences to share with you as well. So we've done this before, and I always like to talk to the panelists and say this is just really a conversation amongst us in the room, virtually, our virtual room today. So feel free to kind of pop in. I hope that we can get through all of the content that we had spent some time preparing in our meetings leading up to today's event in this session. So I'm just going to kind of jump right in to the first question here. One of the things we talked about when it comes to attracting talent, which is something we're all spending a lot of time on, and our marketing teams are helping us, and Rob, I think, has that interesting perspective here on both those roles and overseeing both departments. But what have you done to sort of improve your onboarding processes when it comes to bringing in new talent to ensure that these new employees are really feeling welcomed and supported and engaged really from the get-go? Anyone want to take that as a first pass to start with? And feel free to unmute yourselves if you can't already.
I can jump in. Hi, Tracy here. Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. I think one thing that we've done very recently, actually, within the last couple of months, to help improve our onboarding process is we send a welcome email to the employee before they even start. They get copied into their home email, but then, so it's kind of a, hey, welcome, glad to have you joining our team. That usually comes out the week before. And then a couple days before their start date, we send another email that goes to their work email address, saying, welcome, it's your first day, glad to have you. And when they open that up, they see all of their login information for the various systems that they need to get into. Their leader has been copied on that the week before. And we've trained our leaders to say, hey, when you get that email, if you wouldn't mind going in and making sure everything looks good. They've got everything they need. They've got the logins they need. And we have found that first day has been a little smoother, and it's kind of a welcome for that employee to go, oh, wow, they're ready for me, right? It's not scrambling around saying, oh, shoot, like, let me find you a pad of paper, right? It's a welcoming thing. And we've received some really good feedback on that. So we'll keep growing on that, but that's kind of a fun one we've done recently that seems to be going over very well. So.
That's my dream, Tracy.
You will get there, Anne.
We are in the infancy stages of that, but ours is we're really focused right now on creating the checklists of what to do. When you've hired somebody, what are you going to do the week before to make sure that you've got all the equipment and everything, you've got a place for them to sit. The very, very basic things. And then what do you do the first, the day before? What do you do the first week, the first 30 days, first 60 days? So really encouraging that check-in stuff to make sure that they feel the love. So, but we're not there yet. We're still in the infancy.
Hey, oh, sorry, Todd, go ahead.
Oh, good. One of the things we've done is that within the first month that you start, we have a new employee breakfast that is somewhere throughout the state that will bring folks in. And so everyone that has started, and some folks have been here for a week and some of them would have been here 28 days. But we do a breakfast, and the night before, if they're over certain hours, we bring them in, put them up in the hotel, we'll have dinner with them the night before. And then we have a new employee breakfast, and it is not about selling tractors. It's not about service. It's about, hey, this is who we are. This is what we believe in. This is where we've come from. These are our vision values. This is what we value. And this is really what you're a part of. You're not here to sell tractors. You're not here to turn wrenches. You're here to serve the communities that we serve. And just spend a lot of time with that. Give them the history of the business and just spend some time with them. We make sure that they're not sitting with folks that they work with. And our director of HR, kind of the first thing she does is has all of them say, hey, what do you think you do here? And then it's a pretty interesting thing. So we just kind of reset the value of, hey, this is what we do. You don't turn wrenches, you don't sell machines, you don't sell parts, you don't do accounts payable. You're here to serve the communities that we're a part of. And this is what that looks like. And that's been a really good thing. And then the other thing that we do is that once a year, so January 3rd, it was this year, but it's always the first working day after the new year, we shut down every member of the company is in one place. It's mandatory. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Drivers, yard guys, sales guys, VPs, everyone's there. And we just kind of reset and say, hey guys, this is who we are. This is what we believe. This is where we're going. And so we've really found that kind of as a re-energizer everywhere. So people kind of understand, hey, this is what our objectives are this year. This is what this company is about. And this is where they're going. We've found that it's a whole lot more about that than it is the process that really gets people engaged.
This is Rob. Thanks, and good to meet everyone. And I'm taking notes. You guys have great ideas. So I was just going to quick piggyback off of Ann. One of the things we've incorporated this past year is really engaging. The orientation and the onboarding is more than a day. Historically, it's been meeting with an HR representative, whether it be in face or through Zoom. So a few things that we've wanted to do is really have that face-to-face, the one-on-one. And so that's a change, which that is a resource constraint. And so we work real hard to do that because it does add to culture. It does say something about the organization with meeting with folks across 8 locations. We don't have HR representatives across all 8. So that's really important, and it's worth the time to do that. But the extension beyond HR's, the necessary day 1, day 2 meeting, we've set a schedule up and have really put ownership on not just the general managers at the remote each of those locations, but also the department managers. And so we've extended that checklist to include all those key stakeholders that those individuals will be interfacing with. Even, let's say it's a service representative, there's going to be time that's carved out that they'll be spending with parts, even in the warehouse, understanding different areas of the business. So we're in the process of truing that up, but we have found that truly, does complement and helps give each employee a sense of, what they're part of and what other areas of the business are doing to support them, or other areas of the business that they are supporting. So kind of rounds them out.
One thing that we've also done is that our new hires receive a welcome gift from Human Resources. So it's a little beautiful white cake box that has a great red bow. And inside of there, we had already pre-screened them to find out what their apparel size was. So they have their first 5 days worth of apparel, along with some hats and other merchandise, and a card from us. And so we often receive thank you letters for that being at their location on their first day.
These are some really great examples, everyone. I can see our panelists are even taking away information, which is fantastic, from other panelists. So I think just even going back now maybe a step, because that's like once they come in the door, if we talk about recruitment a little bit, any channels specifically that you've used to reach potential candidates, or things that you've done new and differently, like especially kind of looking back, coming out maybe out of COVID the last 3 years, anything that you found that works, maybe even some things that didn't work as it relates to recruitment?
Who's got the magic bullet?
I know.
I'm waiting for the answer.
Hey, I'll just share one quick thing, because I'm sure a lot of us are doing very similar things. Digital has played a significant role, being part of the community, all those things. But one thing we did last year, and our angst is on the technician side, skilled trades are a problem. And this may be unique to the Milwaukee market. That's one of our key locations. But we actually hosted a morning radio show. There's 2 gentlemen that are notorious in our area, and they have the drive time. And so they broadcast it from Bay 1 and had some fun with our technicians. If that's available, and anyone who's listening, or even the panelists, that they do this with businesses. It's called Go to Work with the Boys kind of thing. And there's a lot of unique businesses out there. And so if that's not being done, it's a creative way, maybe even reaching out to a local station and just saying, hey, is this something you'd be willing to do? They played games with the guys. It was very ad hoc. The president of the company was uncomfortable. He was on the spot. So that was fun. But just humanizes, and what I'll say, if I don't say it now, I may say it later, is, trying to make our industry sexy and fun. And that was a kind of a creative way, out of the box thing, that we dabbled with. And on the other side of it, the ROI would be that we did receive calls on applications. People did note that, a month earlier they had heard. It wasn't all technicians, but it was other positions as well. So we knew it had reach, and our competitors took note of it as well.
We have started to, well, not started, we've been doing it for some time, exploring TikTok. We've got quite the following. Our marketing team puts a lot of thought and energy into this to make it fun. They recently did, not recently, I would probably say about a year maybe ago, when Yellowstone first came out and it was really big. They had our logo as part of one of those, I don't know if I'm saying this right, one of those big branding sticks at the end of it. And they showed, here's your new hire package. And when you opened the box up, there was the premier branding thing. And we got so many reactions out of that. We had candidates coming in for interviews talking about that. When do I get my premier branding done on my butt and stuff like that? It's like, oh my gosh, what have we done? But it created a lot of excitement. People had fun with it. So we gathered quite a bit of a TikTok following from that, and we've really just been showing the life of who we are. We'll do whatever fun TikTok trend is going on out there. We'll go jump into the shop and we'll record the technicians doing the latest TikTok dance, right? And it's like, it's just silly things like that, but it just shows, it's been showing candidates that we like to have fun, and we still work hard, but come and see what we're all about. So it's been interesting. It's been a neat little journey, so kind of fun.
Do you TikTok?
I snoop. I don't do my own.
So there's nothing with you.
We want to dance.
You don't, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. What dance?
We're going to make up our own for today.
Maybe another time. We'll practice that for next
Happy
time.
hour. Happy hour later.
Yes. Well, okay, Alita, better get on that. Oh, those are some great ideas. A couple other things that we talked about in some of our sessions leading up to today, as it relates to sort of attracting new talent, was around benefits, perks, also like, it's a very competitive marketplace, right? And so we also talked about kind of determining competitive salaries for employees and new hires as well. So kind of as we talk about benefits, perks, competitive wages, anything that you guys want to share with regards to what you're doing or any learnings that you've had?
So we haven't figured it out yet, but what we did figure out, I think, is that our competitors aren't other equipment dealers. Our competitors are other great companies that we want to go get folks from. We very rarely hire within the industry any longer. We have found that if you were really good at that dealership, they're going to figure out a way to keep you. And if they're willing to let you go, if you're willing to jump for a buck, you probably do the same to us. And so we really started benchmarking ourselves against auto, against truck, against Harley, and said, that's who our competitor is. That's who we're going for. And it has increased the level of talent we've gotten significantly. The other piece of it is that we've realized facilities matter more for your people than your customers. And you can look at our new facilities, our facilities that have great locker rooms, our facilities that have been built within the last few years are at a significantly higher customer engagement compared to what we've seen around. So we've just decided that, hey, we're going to go outside of the industry and try to get the best talent from other folks. We found outdoor power equipment, things like that, to be great places to get folks. And so it changed the game of what you have to pay, though.
I would,
Oh, go ahead, Rob.
no, all I was going to say is the facility thing is huge. You know, it's easy historically to kind of move on with business and focus outward. And as we all know, you know, the personnel side, you know, this late, you know, plays into benefits and really taking care of employees is key. And it's easy oftentimes, I don't want to say for ownership, but certainly at the leadership side, you know, they're very much focused on operating statements, and oftentimes the employees historically would, you know, those sorts of things would be considered soft and not as necessary. And plus, you know, over time, things, you know, lighting changes, technology changes. So we ourselves have been really focused on investing there, on facilities, on the shop floor, brightening things up, tooling, things like that. And that's a big retention thing, obviously. And when we are giving tours to schools, that's important as well.
I think
Great.
one of the things we're trying to do from a recruiting standpoint is a little bit different. It is trying to go after or create our own apprenticeship program in accordance with the John Deere University. We're partnering up with a local community college to create an accelerated program where we can get our technicians kind of get non-traditional folks, bringing them over, like you said, Todd, from different industries, and getting them used to working on big ag equipment and John Deere specifically, you know, and just getting them up and running, growing our own, getting them ready faster. That's kind of been our major focus, and we're building a training facility for that and all sorts of things. So it's going to be our big push for recruiting, I think.
The other benefit that we had to tackle too is that we just changed our vacation policy. It was the number one thing being negotiated, and so we just changed it. We just said, hey, look, we're gonna give vacation. We want you to be rested. We want you to be engaged, and that was the biggest change for us. And I think we give 2 weeks to start, and you can get up to 4, and then we have 7 days off. And so we've said, hey guys, we've explained this is the amount of time we're giving off. This is a gigantic cost, so we need real productivity while you're here. But to us, I mean, we just found if you weren't willing to give vacation, you weren't going to get good people.
You know, it's funny on that. I'll give Satisfied a plug here. 2 years ago, we had received the employee feedback, and for the first time, the benefits portion of our survey took a dip. So I did a tour after that because I was like, well, wage was fine. Wage is never fine, right? Like no one's ever going to say you pay me too much, but benefits, and we've always been competitive on that front, and it took a dip. For this meeting and this call, I'll spare all the details, but I did a round robin and went around to all the dealerships and literally spoke in groups of 5 across 350 employees. So it was a long month, but really defining and helping them understand, or me understand, how they were perceiving benefits. And so we had some clarity there, and education was key. A big piece was vacation, and we did convert to PTO. We did make the bucket more generous. We did look back, you know, the business started back in 1984. So a lot of the policies were, you know, we'll call it static since then. So we did true so much up. In the essence of time, I won't get into that, but PTO, just to reinforce what Todd was saying, for us, that was a big deal. Retirement was a big deal. A lot of things, what I'll call trade perks geared towards techs, were a big deal. We spent over $500,000 just to do that. So a year later, we do the surveys again. I was holding my breath going, I hope with our efforts and what we've done, we'll have paid off. And it did. We had dips in other areas, and benefits was one of the few categories that did go up last year, which I was glad. Obviously, we have more work to do, but that was key. And my last plug on that is relative to benefits is it's evergreen. It's not once a year. We spend a lot of money on a lot of different benefits. I have my HR manager going out quarterly, and we have it's tactics used in marketing. We have three subject areas that we are going to focus on each quarter, and that's walking the shop floor, walking retail, and plugging largely the benefits and making sure that everyone understands what it is we offer, what we have, because most people forget, and that's our competitive advantage. So that commercial just has to be replayed like it or not. But with that, people understand what it is we're offering, and that helps with retention.
Yeah, we've even talked about taking that and actually putting it on a piece of paper. So at the annual increase that they get, here's what your salary is, here's what your bonus is, here's what your benefit equivalent is, your vehicle allowance, all of that stuff, and really quantify it for it and put it in front of people, to your point, to run that commercial.
Yes.
We did exactly that, and we had a snapshot. It had all kinds of graphics and fun little things to catch the eye, colors, and it was like, hey, here's your salary, but did you also know, like, there's this and this and this, and everybody was like, wow, you forget, right, all of that little stuff, and that stuff that still, you know, it plays into the full, or the compensation package, the total package. So
we call that's kitchen table discussion. That's stuff that people, you know, start to then brag about with their friends and family and whatnot. But we're not promoting it or carving it out the right way. We're not giving them much to talk about. So we give them reason.
Gives that for that employee referral program, gives them the kind of something to take out and refer to people. They tell them why. Yeah.
Those are fantastic. Oh, go ahead, Rob. You had another.
No, all I was going to say to Ann, what's funny is I shared, like, in the last 18 months or so, we've been doing this campaign, you know, just pushing and really intentional with benefits. So what's interesting about what Ann just said in terms of referrals, we have never had more referrals I've been there 15 years. We have never had more referrals to our business than we have in the last 7 to 8 months. So we have a metrics of where, you know, people are coming in from, whether it's Indeed, et cetera, but referrals have been at an all-time high. And I believe it largely has to do with our being intentionally internally, and no better commercial, right, than referrals from current employees, right? So I think there's a correlation there. I'm going to take credit for that.
As you should.
Yeah.
So Rob, you measure, it sounds like some measurements around where people are coming from in recruitment. Are you guys measuring in any way, like, the other efforts that you're doing as it relates to, you know, recruitment and the success of, like, what's working well, what's not working well?
Yes. Digital is the easiest way for us to do that. Obviously, we do pragmatic, we do very focused marketing efforts on social. So with that, you know, we call that conversion rate. So we measure that way, and we can easily pivot if we're finding that we're not getting traction, or, you know, applicants is the be all and end all. So you talk to marketing agencies and they'll talk about all the impressions they'll provide. And anyone out there listening in the panel, I mean, you're not sure where everyone's at on that front, but impressions are wonderful, and agencies will talk all day long about that. Our truest measurement is applications. That's it, applications. So we will, if applications are drying out, we know we have to pivot, and demographics, things like that. But on that question, there is no magic bullet. Someone mentioned that earlier. It is all the channels all the time. And seasonality too is a big deal. But yeah.
No, thank you. I think, I know others have, you know, shared some similar experiences along the way as far as, you know, doing marketing and recruiting down those same sort of various channels as it relates today. I'd like to kind of shift as we're, you know, moving in. The session isn't very long, so kind of keeping my eye on the time here, into talking about a little bit more about retention. So we talked about, you know, kind of their first day and how you guys have started to engage them right from the beginning of the process. There's a lot of effort and expense that's put into that onboarding process, and especially training, sometimes both an investment from the employee and obviously from your organizations as well. What tools or programs have you guys put in place to really sort of measure that effort, to make sure you're doing, you know, the right things from the onboarding perspective, and that they have adequate training and the tools that they need to do their jobs?
Hate to say it, that's probably a gut. You know, I don't think we have a formal process in place. That's a gut. you can get a sense of a dealership pretty quickly when you walk in, especially if you're not in it every day. I am out of the dealership. In fact, most of my executive team is out of the dealership. I actually think it's probably the best thing you could possibly do from an executive and HR standpoint, because you get the feel. You walk into that door and you're a customer. You don't have the same relationships. You don't have the same day-to-day. The smells are different. Everything's different. And every time you walk into the dealership, when you're not there every day, it's new. So you're not trained to it. So you have a high and a keen sense of awareness of what's going on with the culture and what's taking place there. And so really, it's been a lot of gut. We're pretty intentional about trying to be in the dealerships regularly. But it to me, it's pure gut. And I'm sure there's a way to do it. I don't always look at retention as turnover, percentage of turnover is a great thing. As you grow and evolve as a business, sometimes your people aren't excited for your next level of growth or your next level of evolution, and it's okay to shake hands and move on. So I would be very careful to measure that by turnover rate, because sometimes we can still be friends, but this isn't the right place for you anymore. And I think having that conversation and being open is great. So I think it's a gut. I mean, what's the feel in the store, and that's how we measure it. It's not good. I'm sure somebody's got a better idea, but that's really how we do it.
I think for us, it's asking, and it's being very blatant and bringing together groups of employees. We've been doing it in aftermarket, really talking to the technicians and parts people about, why do you stay? Why would you leave? What can we do to keep you? And really listening and finding out, what additional tools do they need? Do they need additional resources? Is there training that they want that they aren't getting? And do you have the work-life balance that you're looking for? Do you have the scheduling that you're looking? I mean, it's just asking all of those questions and being very open to the feedback that they provide you, above and beyond the satisfied engagement survey, of course, but being very open to whatever feedback that they're going to give you, so that you can take the steps necessary to try and retain your best people.
One thing that's helped us as far as retention of service technicians is the implementation of a tool allowance, which of course comes with a price basically that they're committing to. So, if they've signed and taken advantage of the tool allowance, it's highly likely that they're going to stay for that 12 or 36-month period. Since we've begun to do that, that's helped out the organization. We've had less turnover for service technicians. Plus, they have the tools they need to do the job. The one thing we were offering that to newer technicians initially, but what we found was the seasoned ones are the ones who were dissatisfied because they weren't getting that offer to them. So once we rolled that out, it seemed to really increase their morale.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Thanks, Shannon. So I'll kind of move to our next question that relates to this as well. So I just heard, I think Anne brought this up recently about when you were talking about just sitting down and having these questions and asking them when you're sort of gauging retention around this work-life balance or engagement that we talk about, and sort of what that means. And I know, Todd, you had some interesting thoughts on this when we talked before too, but what are different strategies that you've put in place to help employees with, their perspective, maybe as it relates to, their life on the job and personally?
And do you want to go? Because my side on this is a little bit different.
I feel like I'm talking too much. But
No.
so the way I look at work-life balance is really through work-life integration. So when you're at home, you're thinking about work. When you're at work, you're thinking about home. And so, trying to separate the two and create this illusion of balance, I'm not sure is really possible. And so it's really, again, talking to the employees and finding out what does it mean to you personally, and I mean, we pride ourselves as part of our culture is to help employees, you know, if you've got to leave early to go to a soccer game, or you've got to leave, you know, we'll cover for you, and I mean, that's the way we do business. And I think that's what keeps employees with us. I just did a leadership session a couple of weeks ago, and that was when I asked them, why do you stay? And that was what they said. It's like, we love the fact that we all take care of each other in our locations. And I mean, and in many of our locations, they're very small communities. And so everybody knows what everybody is doing and what they're involved in. And so there is this give and take that that really helps with that work-life integration that I'm trying to process. Okay, over to you, Todd.
So I've said this, I'm not the biggest proponent of work-life balance, because oftentimes I feel when I hear work-life balance, it's, I want to work less, but I want to make more. That's an awful, if you look at the way this is going in the world, oftentimes what we work towards here is the expectation balance. Hey, if you need a 9-to-5 job here, and that's the expectation, that's what you're willing to give us, we got plenty of spots for you. But if you want to be in management, if you want to be a salesman, if you have 6-figure aspirations, there's a trade-off for that. And everything in life, like certain things come with certain commitments that are required. And so really it's a commitment balance for the lifestyle, or to what you want to earn and to where you want to go within the company. So I have a different way of saying it, but I usually say, hey, work-life balance is BS. Let's talk about where you want to go, what you want to get out of Florida Coast, what does Florida Coast need to get out of you to get there? And let's see if we can work together there. And let's understand what your expectations for work is. You know, one of the things is, like, from a work-life balance, if you want to have certain positions within our company, that's 2-day-a-week travel. So folks with young kids, that's probably not a great place. And that's probably not the right position for them that day. Doesn't mean it won't be down the road. So we spend a lot of time talking about expectation, desire, balances to commitment versus work-life balance.
One thing we implemented this year pertaining to work-life balance was to be closed on Saturdays during the off season, which was a big deal around here. For 8 years, we've been in leadership meetings, and this topic has came up. And finally this year we said, let's try it. And we received such great feedback, especially from our counter staff, because those are the people who have to be there every Saturday. You know, that they really appreciated that. And when we announced it, we spun it exactly to that. You know, we understand that it's difficult for work-life balance. Some of our stores are smaller. There's not as many people at the parks counter. So we wanted to give this to them and spend time with their people. And I believe that that's helped a lot. As it pertains to after hours, you know, Todd, you're right. Peak seasons, we gotta go, and that's really important. We have implemented a voluntary sign-up process that helps somewhat with that, because it used to be, you know, it was the same technicians on call all the time every weekend. Where now we've got a little bit of a better system in place. So if they have a commitment that they need to be home, then they just don't sign up. So those are a couple of things that we've done, and I anticipate the Saturday closures for off season will remain for the next season.
And Sharon, just to go back, Shannon, to your point, and I think Rob, you had said this a minute ago, and this is the real key: give and expect. And so your point is, hey guys, we've heard you, we're doing this, but during peak seasons we need this, and we go that same pattern. We're no December. December is huge for us. The week after Christmas can be 5-10% of our actual annual deal, but we close the Friday before, or I mean the Friday after Thanksgiving, and the Monday we give a 5-day week, and we say, guys, we're giving you this because of this. And that, I think, Rob, you said, is we don't tell the story often enough. I think I heard this about Harley Davidson. I don't know if this is still true, but oftentimes when you go into Harley Davidson, if they get a part for you, you say, hey, thanks for doing that. And at Harley, you were not allowed to say no problem. You would say, that's why you do business with us. And that was a real lesson for us, is that when we do something, hey, we're doing this, but remember, we're going to need this. And it's an integration of what works for both sides of it. So not heartless on the work-life integration, but there's just realities of what we all need. But we've got to tell the story when we are giving something, because it just becomes the expectation. And it sounds bragful and boastful, but the reality, no one else is going to tell our story. So we've got to tell it ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. And just a comment back to you, relative to, what was it? Specific to the being flexible. I'm trying to find that word, to the employees. And we have become that way more and more over the years, but it's always been a family business. And that's always kind of been something we touted. That's, in terms of a competitive advantage. And that means something when employees tell you that back. So just as affirmation or whatever to what you're saying for anyone listening, believe it or not, we do have people leave our company. The great thing is they come back. Oftentimes we have more returns, and that largely is due to our flexibility and the family orientation that we have, because their new employer, although the grass is greener because of the dollar, nothing's for free, right? So, but that piece, those subtle things matter, and everyone has family, whatever that family looks like, they have families, they have a life. And so we do work hard to be flexible, and it's not even something we have, from management on down. And that goes, I think, a long way. And for us, having people come back and for them to say the reason why is that just, validates for us.
Yeah.
We're doing the right thing there. It feels good. It's the right thing to do. And people hear that, right? They're coming back.
That's great. I want to kind of move into some of the lessons learned. And we talked about, leading up to this, we talked about when it comes to kind of implementing and managing, getting feedback from employees, what are some do's and don'ts that maybe you can share with the people that are on today's session? I know a lot of you had a lot of different thoughts around this. So if anyone wants to jump in to get started, go for it. I think Todd had one of the best ones. I'm going to put you on the spot, but
I was waiting for that one.
because I wanted to hear it. Yeah. See, everyone
Remind
remembers.
me of which one you want me to go with here.
Your big boy pants.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think the reality and I think I know where you're going with this, but look, the reality is that, you gotta be honest, like you've got to be willing to have the conversations, good or bad, whether they're difficult or they're not, you've got to be willing to have the conversations. And one of the conversations that we had a few years ago with our team, this is once again not always well received, is like, hey, we're not a team, we're not a family here. Like with family, everybody gets invited to Thanksgiving dinner. Tom Brady found out really quickly when he couldn't throw touchdowns anymore that the NFL is not a family. We're a team. We expect and need everyone to contribute. I'm going to treat you really well. I will tell you, I actually think being on a team oftentimes is more fun than being in a family, because I had a lot of fun in the locker room playing sports growing up. Didn't always want to go to family dinners. And so we were very clear, like, hey, we're a team. We're going to put a big boy pants on. We're going to have tough conversations. We're going to put in the work. But there's real true expectations both ways from all parties. And so I went a long time with just beating around the bush on difficult conversations, and found out the longer that I waited to do that, the worse things got. And so my whole thing is just with your team, have a really honest conversation. People may not always like it, but they will respect you, and frankly, they'll probably grow. And so I think that's where you were going, Emily, but that's really kind of how we operate here. And we do it with candor. Like, I actually think it's kind to tell people they're doing a horrible job. Now, hey, you're doing a terrible job. Let's make sure that I'm not the reason you're doing a terrible job. Let's make sure the company's not. Let's make sure we're giving you the tools to succeed. But let's talk about why we're going to get better here. I mean, one of the best things one of the best quotes I've ever heard, and I repeat it all the time, is that when we walk around and folks go like, hey, how's it going? It's fine. We're going to fix fine right now. Like, what's going on? Let's talk about it. We're not interested in fine. We're interested in great. And those just having that conversation with people, we have found such engagement as long as you're truly willing to hear the other side. When you go to someone and say, hey, things aren't going well, you better be willing to hear, better be willing to listen back on what you're not doing well either. And if you go into those conversations, man, it's just a game changer. Not to your point, Rob, people are going to still leave. People may come back, but people are still going to leave. But at the end of the day, you're taking care of the masses, not the few problems. So that's my lesson learned just in anything. It's just, let's have the conversation now.
Well, Todd, you and I talked about this at the pre-meeting, was putting on the big boy pants, hearing the message, but then doing something with the message. So not just listening and, okay, thank you very much, but actually creating an action plan, taking ownership for what you can be doing differently and actually doing something, and in small amounts, like, because I think I came back with, yes, and you can't boil the ocean you can't fix everything all at once. Pick one or two things, fix those, then pick one or two more things, fix those, and keep working down the list. But make sure everything is actionable and realistic in what you're doing, and keep communicating out. I heard what you said. I heard what you want. You know, I heard your feedback. This is what we're doing about it.
Yeah, if you ask a question or if you make a statement in one of those conversations, if it comes back and the complaint or the issue, whatever, the opportunity is real and you don't address it, you've lost your team member, and you should lose your team member. As a member of management, as a member of the team, if someone brings a real concern to you and you don't acknowledge it and address it, and especially when it's at you or it's at a member of senior management, well, you lost them. You've totally lost them. So I say this too all the time. Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror. Am I the problem? Like, you better be willing to look in the mirror if you want to have difficult conversations, because oftentimes we're the problem. What they say, 70% of all people leave because of their manager.
People work for people, for sure. So the one thing that I try to make sure that we're doing as it pertains to the survey is, as Ann said, tying it back to the survey. You know, the participation rate has been great. We continue to encourage that. And then whatever those necessary steps that we take, we communicate it multiple ways, but tie it back into the satisfied survey that we do. So that way they know their voice has in fact been heard and we did take action based on what they said.
That's the key, to be honest. I mean, for years, Lakeside had conducted surveys, and the missing link in all that, it kind of goes back to promoting benefits, you know, an evergreen campaign, is I administer the satisfied survey for the enterprise, and then the general managers all have responsibility, and, you know, whatever the functional management team has, and they all report back. It may work different for different organizations, but I police that to ensure that we actually are responding. My interest is responding. The response could be a no. We're not going to invest in adding 2 more bays to a facility or whatever it might be. But response is key. And people may not, even with the no's, even if they don't like the answer, it's a response. And usually there's some logic provided, and they can respect that. And that's been key. And we've been doing that about 5 years now. Again, in an intentional way. And that's key. And of course, all the wins, right? We want to promote that as well in terms of things that we are responding to, because they're great ideas half the time. So we want to give credit to the group or the department or the individual that promotes those or suggests those, and keep it coming, you know? So they feel like they have more skin in the game, certainly, and they're contributing, and there's ownership there. And that helps, I think, ultimately with retention and job satisfaction.
Yeah. Wow, you guys have done an amazing job. Can you believe it? We're already at our time. And so we've had some questions that have come in, but I wanted to just first, before I hand it over to Alina for Q&A, wanted to just thank each one of you for your contributions today. I know that there's going to be at least a couple takeaways that everyone was able to walk away with. I could just see it from each other and from the panelists and in your reactions to the responses. So thank you very much. And Alina, if you want to take over.
Yes,
Q&A.
absolutely. So some quick questions, because I know that we are a little bit over time. So when it comes to recruiting, and this is a question actually for Todd, are you taking the same approach to all generations age-wise?
So actually, yes. So first of all, I'm a very pro-millennial. I'm not a millennial myself, but I'm actually very pro-millennial. I think they have really changed the game. And what I've seen is that even our older generation, especially a tech, you put a young tech in there, you often find that those techs have the same values, and those younger techs can help them with them. So we're coming at it across the board because there's a certain type of person, certain type of attitude that we want, that we believe fits our culture. So yes, we're looking at this across the board. You know, you don't get to be the old crotchety parts guy just because you're the old crotchety parts guy. Like, that's just not in our team. And so we're looking, by the way, everyone laughs at that because the industry has accepted it forever, and we shouldn't. Like, it's funny, we accept it. It's horrible. Like, that's where you go back to, we're going to fix fine, is that everybody giggles because that's true, not acceptable. And so no, we come at it, we're very intentional about who it is and what we are looking for outside of skill set. We will hire for attitude all day long.
Awesome, thank you. And then the next one is a more logistical question. So about the new employee breakfast, how often is it being offered?
We're doing it once a month, but I also grew this company from 4 stores to 13 in 18 months. So I don't know that we will always do it once a month, but it is still being done once a month.
Got it. Awesome. Okay, and I think those are all the questions that we have from people. We have a lot of excellent comments. Thank you so much for the information, great panel. Somebody has shared that they have seen an 80% internal referred employee percentage higher than 1 year before when it comes to retention rates. That's great.